Hey friends, I hope you're doing really well. And it's kind of one of my newer favorite topics. I'd say that has emerged for me, in the last, and our team too, the last couple years is, with all the different stressors and recognizing the layers of kind of growth that happens when we are healing our relationship with food and movement and body image and even health. I mean, we're so pressed and in all different kinds of ways with information and how we navigate that information, what our past is about that. And then for everybody I work with, my history is included in there too. Is just there's a lot of disruptions and in how to care for the body you have. There's lots of diet trauma. There's lots of missed attunements and how we go through these different developmental phases of just being able to honestly self-care in adult and know how to do it and feel that it's natural and that we can be confident in it. And, I think a lot of times we do judge ourselves about what we feel like we should be able to do XYZ, make choices about food, do things in a timely manner, think ahead, use leftovers well, know um, how to do a lot of like problem solving around food, multiple meals and snacks a day over the course of many days, depending on a schedule, or if you're having guests over or whatever you're doing, there's a lot to it actually. And so most people come to us, and of course we're going to work on relationship with food and decoding I feel fat and doing the nervous system health regulation stuff. But we also do practical stuff with food, cooking, shopping, prepping, um, mix and matching the ingredients you actually bought that work well for other things. And so if you're judging your ability to shop or to cook or do any of these things, that may be what's holding you back from moving forward, because being judgmental is a barrier to making progress. So this is what this video is about. If you haven't already kind of gleaned that, is I want to talk about the care and attunement and being willing to be slow and to see how maybe capable and competent you truly are. But we have to break everything down in a lot of steps. So I'm going to talk about some of the things we do, because I've never talked about this. I've been doing this. This is my 19th year doing this, is 2025. And this is something we've done forever. We just don't talk about very much because it's not that glamorous, but it's one of the game changers in people's ability to feel like that we can adult and it become natural. All right. So, but it's way more than just meal planning. There's a reason why you haven't been able to just go on the internet and find one of a million different meal planning free downloads and grocery list. There's a reason you haven't been able to do it. One, because it's kind of 2D, right? It doesn't always feel real. And it's hard to conceptualize all these moving parts. Let's say there's just a grocery list, let's say. And how do I conceptualize that into meals? And where do I put them? And in terms of in the week? And am I even accounting for my level of activation, maybe the work I'm doing in nutrition counseling and therapy, the time of year it is, what kind of other things are in your system that are taking a lot of space and spoons for you as well. Um, so that's why this isn't typical traditional, like, of course we never give people, here's your meal plan, have a nice day, figured out. I mean, there's a lot of processing that goes with making those decisions together. But from the like really where the rubber meets the road, I want to learn how to um, look at a recipe, look at the ingredients, not feel overwhelmed, know what to do with those ingredients, how to put it together in a recipe, how to heat the food in a regulated way, and what to do with the leftovers, and how to know inside what's working, what's not. So there's a lot of steps to it. And I know that's why people get overwhelmed and they just they do it a little bit and it just gets hard to maintain, because we try to push all those things I just said. Those are all developmental milestones that typically we are observing and we're participating in all throughout childhood. All throughout childhood, from the time that you're able to be aware that a caregiver is cooking. You're learning through your senses, your smell, your hearing, your sight. Maybe you're touching things, maybe you're helping. You're learning how to be comfortable with the work of doing this and the pacing. You're watching people make lists. You're watching someone go to the store. You're with them at the store and how they make some of these decisions. And I've seen, honestly, all these skills start to look like a lost art in the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years for people, because we do a lot of food comes to us. We have so many options that we're losing some of those skills. And then when we are honestly probably in the midst of some kind of trauma vortex, or we're trying to come out of it, we need to just get fed, basically. But once you're out of some of that vortex, now you're like, oh, I have to do all these pieces and parts. And you're trying to learn all that when you're 20 or when you're 50. And it feels pretty overwhelming. And sometimes I know often people just ask us, well, just tell me what to do. And I'm like, I can, but I think that's going to be too much for your system. You're going to feel overwhelmed and it's not going to be consistent. And it's not landing. So let's start a little bit. I'm going to tell you some of the different things we do to help people feel, basically to build their neurobiology to be able to do this. And, because a lot of people tell me, I never did this with my mom or dad or a grandmother figure or a grandmother or anyone that I watched them do these tasks. And I watched the sequence and the pacing, or I participated in that, or I went to the grocery store with my mom or dad or someone, and all the food was in the cart and what to do with it when you get home with it. And then, okay, we make this food now. Like, how many days does it last? How many people does it feed? What are the preferences? You can hear there's so many micro decisions, and some people can do that really naturally, and then some of us just not with it naturally. It looks like they do it naturally, but they only do it naturally because they observed it thousands of times. Like, I'll give myself an example. As much as I was in environments where body dissatisfaction and hatred was the norm, and people did some crazy stuff with food, what I will say that was definitely an advantage for me in recovery from all kinds of disordered eating is that when they weren't doing crazy crash diets, they were eating pretty normally. Like, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks were always available 7 days a week. And there was a lot of shopping and cooking and prepping and leftover use involved in that. And so I learned those skills over the course of 18 years. I had it. Now, diet culture tried to erode a lot of that, a lot of my body trust, and it did, and I had to regain that. But when I made that decision to like eat 3 meals and snacks a day, I had some neurobiology, atrophy, but it was still in there. I wasn't starting from zero. And a lot of you may be starting from zero where you weren't regularly fed. I hear lots of stories, people's parents didn't eat meals and snacks really, and they ate dinner and that was it. And so they didn't witness the breakfast foods and the lunch options being bought and prepared and sat down and eaten and then taken care of. So there's no neurobiology for that in a lot of people's systems. So if you're struggling with that, that's step number one. Acknowledge your food story. What's your food story? How did you learn how to eat? What did you not learn how to do? Whether it was cooking or shopping or preparing or even preparing ahead for like busy weeks. Maybe you only know how to do holiday meals, but you don't know how to do day to day and how to shop to stretch a dollar when you need to, how to shop when you're having people over. Maybe there's just some skills that never got taught. And so if that's the truth, have some compassion. No wonder this is so hard. I mean, it all feels so many pieces and parts and overwhelming because I've never seen it done and I've never practiced it. So there never has been any consistent action to learn. Okay. That's step one. What's your food story? What's your history, with food and shopping and cooking and batch preparing, all the different ways we can do things, right? Okay. I want to make some notes because I didn't want to forget. So some people need to start really with just meal kits and some pros and cons of that and what makes it us more likely to do it. Are we more likely to do it when it comes prepackaged? Are we more likely to do it when they just throw the ingredients kind of in a bag and there's a recipe? Um, meal kit, there's all kinds of options. So you don't have to pick an option. Maybe you pick a couple, some free trials, whatever. Sometimes that's the easiest way to do it. And you combine it with convenience food and eating out. And maybe you can get, not maybe, you can get well fed doing that. Maybe that's step one. Okay. Fed is best. Step one. Step two is this one. Maybe you go that direction. Maybe the next level then is like you're feeling more comfortable with like the process of 3 meals and snacks a day, and you're doing that pretty much every day, and it's starting to feel more natural. Then the next step would be to start looking for some very simple recipes that you can do on your own. And we're talking 5 ingredients and using 1 or 2 pots, let's say, to start there and doing the recipes for that. And I know this is a place that people get really hung up because they're looking for the perfect recipe and they can't find it because this recipe has one ingredient they don't like, let's say peppers. And that one, it's a similar recipe, but they use oregano and you don't like that spice. And tell your brain it's okay to leave these things out. You don't have to eat it. Or maybe you want to add something. You're allowed to do that too. Um, I always see recipes, baking, it's hard to have exceptions there. Baking, you need to follow it. It's definitely like a chemistry project, baking. If you don't do it the way it's proposed, it might not turn out. Cooking though is different. You have a lot of room. And not only is that good for you to be able to own your preferences, and it'll build some agency and decision making that you can't really screw it up. And this is your plate, this is your food. And you get to do it how you best prefer. So there's a lot of healing in there in terms of like your needs and preferences are finally being listened to, and you're the one listening and making it seem like it matters. Okay. So recipe, that part of the recipe thing is very important as well. And how we shop, can be delivered. We can go there, use regulation, and regulation is um, whatever sensory tools you're using, whatever co-regulators you use, which is people, times a day, certain grocery stores, whatever support you need to be able to be as present. And maybe you can't shop the whole shop for the week in one go. Maybe it's got to be one day, 1 meal a day, or I'm sorry, the whole day in one shop. If that's all your system can tolerate, there's lots of ways to titrate this, so make it do in the pieces that you can do. Okay. So let's say now you've got your box, you've got your food, you've got your shopping from wherever you got it from, whether delivered yourself, whatever you got it, your meal kit, however you do it, that it's important to take time with those ingredients when you unpack your groceries, unbox your food, look at it, take some time with it. Do you like the way it looks? How do you need to store it so you're more likely to use it? If you're starting to feel like uncomfortable about it and there's like too much thoughts or I'm never going to use all this and it's too much, again, take a pause, take a step back, and then go back to regulation, regulation, regulation with every step. Okay. But this is where you're going to want to start to like, I've got my hands on this food now and I see it and I don't need to get overwhelmed because I'm not cooking it yet. Let's just have a plan for when you want to deal with these things. Okay. So that's where the prep and the appropriate storage comes into place. Are we using it the next day or two? Or are you freezing it? What are we doing with this to make sure that we utilize the most we can? Another piece of this is like expect some food waste. I know nobody likes to do that, but I would rather someone throw away a little bit of something or a portion of a wilted whatever than to throw away the whole grocery shop and scrap it all and not try any of it. Okay, so take your time with like, I can keep all this, or it isn't too much and I have a plan for all of it. I'm just not going to be utilizing this all right this second. Okay. And next, yeah, we're actually planning for the meal. So that means that you're planning the days you're going to use these ingredients or whatever it is. And that takes, again, think through your week. We might have to sit. I sit sometimes 2 hours at a pop with people doing different steps of this process where we are slowing this down, widening it out. Where are the barriers? Where are you freezing? Where are you saying, screw this? Getting re-regulated. What's the function of that? Is it true? Bringing lots of agency into this, okay, to not overwhelm yourself, because again, you're trying to do a lot of different skills in in a concentrated amount of time that you've never done, when really you would have learned all these skills over the course of probably, let's say, from 5, let's say, I just make up a number, 3 or 5, to when you left home, right? So that's a good dozen years plus where you have been learning these things little bits at a time, and you weren't by yourself trying to do this. And so that's part of the point of all this work that we do together with clients, but also, we're not with clients every day, all day long. And so we're trying to help people have a new, good experience of this process to where they don't, we want people to feel like I can, you know, not that I can and never not having dysregulation, um, but I can. And you've had these experiences of doing it to where it's not as big and as hard as sometimes our brains want to tell us. Okay. So long video, that's a lot of information. But it's so fruitful. It's so exciting. I do hope that you, consider, if you're struggling with regular meals, regular shopping, um, if you're finding yourself stuck in a rut with the same, honestly, like 1 or 2 breakfasts, 1 or 2 lunches, 1 or 2 dinners, I know that's probably you got this little comfort zone around these things because that's kind of what you know. And it's hard for a brain who's got, when there's a lot of dysregulation in the body, to want to do something new because you don't know what to expect. But think about the process, think about like, maybe even think about actually which is the hardest part of all of this. Is the hardest part looking through at recipes? Is the hardest part getting to the store? Is the hardest part utilizing the ingredients? Is the hardest part cooking? Is the hardest part eating it? Or is the hardest part like, I want to eat, it's just that I don't know how to do, like, I need to like do more than like 1 meal ahead because I'm so busy. I know it's not acceptable anymore to just blow off my needs. I've come too far, but I don't know how. Like, we have 3 really busy days to get this food on the table. 3 meals at a time, thinking about things feels like too much. So you might be a person that's like, is really busy, lots of appointments, and other people you're in relationship with or caring for. So it is important to kind of slow that down to figure out where you have barriers in that process. So if you're looking for help with that, we love doing that with people. It's quite a joy, to be honest, to get to see people's agency grow in this way. So if you think that all eating disorder dietitians do is, make people cry and like, really push on like the different functions of like food rules and fears of weight gain, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we do all that. But we do a lot of this stuff too. And it's really fun. So it doesn't have to be hard, doesn't have to be super scary, but we often just need support. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful. And if you're interested in more, just contact us and we'll be happy to help. Thanks so much. Bye for now.